Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We look again at the last couple of weeks of total accumulated precipitation, and almost all of our southern region has seen at least 1 inch to 2 inches of rainfall, with the only exceptions being far southern parts of Texas and then getting over into parts of New Mexico. But outside of that, there's a broad sector in there that in the last couple of weeks has seen at least 2 inches. Inside this corridor here, where we've measured at places between 5 and 15 inches of rainfall, we have some locations that have been reporting 200 to 600% of normal rainfall just in the last couple of weeks. If we step back and try to understand what got us into this pattern, we can look into the forecast to see if it continues. What we've noticed is there's been pretty strong winds coming off of Japan that have split right here in the Pacific Ocean. So the split has been happening right in this area. What that's given us is a strong kind of almost step-like behavior to the subtropical jet stream. This has been the feature that has driven those big low-pressure systems you've been hearing about in the news that have hit parts of Europe, but it has been putting very strong winds over the top of our southern region, which has helped to enhance the upper-level motion in the atmosphere to produce these precipitation events. So this is valid this Thursday. Let me just take you out to day 10. We see very similar features. See the split is happening there. Look at that same step-like nature in the subtropical jet stream. So we continue to see through the next 10 days a wetter pattern here. Change is likely to come by the time we start March. Now, in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which is where we're sitting, now this is above the polar jet stream, we still have our stronger flow coming off of Japan. We still see this feature here overrunning our polar jet, but there's some changes happening in Alaska and the polar jet stream that could possibly change things up here for the eastern half of the United States, and that could put us on the drier side of the upper level flow, a step down from the level you're looking at here, but this could remove some of the influence of this strong subtropical jet stream feature that I keep drawing here. We're going to take a look at that in just a few moments. But over the next 10 days, that flow pattern still dominates, and this is becoming an all too familiar picture. The western part of the United States is showing up dry. We have the subtropical branch of the jet stream cutting underneath it just like that. I mean, you can just follow the wet anomalies here to see where that's going to be. So through the next 10 days, we're watching for two things. We're going to have a stalled frontal boundary there initially, and then we're going to have a trough that pulls out of Alaska that dips down here into the four corner states and then develops a low that goes racing off in this direction. And that particular pattern is going to give us another shot at having another big blast of cooler air that comes through and maybe signals a pattern change for the beginning of the month of March. But in the near term, over the next 5 days, we can see that a large section of our southern region stretching from central Texas all the way over to South Carolina, picking up somewhere between 3/4 of an inch, with interior pockets in there picking up 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. Taking a more detailed look, let's come back here into parts of south central United States, and you can see this swath right in through here possibly being the wettest region, as that will be the tail end of some lingering frontal boundaries. They'll be stationary boundaries, so they'll kind of sit there as the systems pull off to the north and east. And this could possibly give us, as I remove those drawings in there, widespread 3/4 of an inch to some locations over 3 inches of rainfall, especially we're going to watch right here on the Texas-Louisiana border. Notice that the panhandle of Texas is a little bit drier out of this next system, and that's basically due to its placement with respect to the stalled frontal boundary and the trough that's sweeping in. But overall, we can see that this sector of the United States and our southern region is looking quite wet. Over toward the south and east, again, through the next 5 days, we see a very similar pattern. The good news is, if you look on the northern edge of this heavier rainfall, where we're getting some of the extreme flooding in the Tennessee Valley right now, Tennessee, Kentucky, you're going to be a little bit farther north than where the heaviest rainfall bands will likely be, and still picking up 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of rainfall the farther south you go here. But this is at least a better picture over what I have shown lately with where the heaviest rainfall has been. But from South Carolina through Alabama, all the way over to Mississippi and getting into Louisiana, that particular corridor, you see right in through here, easily grabbing another 1.5 to 2.5 inches of rainfall. Now, with the next system coming through on Thursday, I do want the folks that are right here in this part of Tennessee getting over into North Carolina to be on the lookout for possibly some very wet snow mixing in with this. The probability of it accumulating to 1 inch or more is relatively low. We see a lot of 20 to maybe up to 50% chance of getting 1 inch of snow out of this. But don't be surprised in parts of Tennessee in the morning hours on Thursday if we see some snowflakes mixing in with this next system. Okay, so let's take a look at it. We'll run first our high resolution model. So first low exits Maine. You can see the boundary that it leaves lingering across our southern region on which the next low pressure system tries to form here. Let me show it to you again. So through early this morning, this is 7 a.m. this morning, widely scattered showers to Tennessee, Kentucky, getting to West Virginia and stretching all the way back here into Texas. So widely scattered showers this morning. By midday, the low takes off, bringing snow up to New England. But you can see here's the main frontal boundary. So what's going on here is there's high pressure coming in from the north. There's high pressure off to the southeast, and the two just bring in flow clockwise. So it's coming in like that from this direction, and like that from that direction. So the parallel boundary in through here is what we're watching, and it's on that boundary that we see through this evening, getting into the early morning hours on Wednesday, that we have our heaviest precipitation. So by the time we get into Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, we're going to be watching for the development of very weak upper level low right in through this area. And as it moves through Texas into Louisiana and Arkansas, there's enough cold air pushed south on this high pressure cell that's when we could start to see some light snow in the panhandles and also in southern Kansas. But then watch as I move you through midday on Thursday. So the coldest air pushes in through here early in the morning, and we might see some wet snowflakes mixing in Tennessee, maybe clipping northern Alabama, northern Georgia, maybe even northern Mississippi as well, getting over to the Appalachian Mountains. Now, beyond this, let's switch over and take a look at our European model. You're going to see a little different solution out of that next system, so we'll just pause it right there. That's Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, and evening. So can you see how the model doesn't fully paint the snowfall like the operational high-res model does? But I want you to watch right in through here for some snowflakes mixing in. Here comes the high-pressure cell, but we have to watch that one. See, it sinks in by the weekend. So clearing things out here for the weekend. But if it keeps moving, which it does, offshore, it's now the feeder system into this next low pressure system right here for Sunday. We've now seen a few model runs that have put this same low pressure system in place. So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week, we have to watch that system sneak from Oklahoma all the way over to North Carolina, and that brings us a wet start to next week. Now, after this, the pattern changes pretty considerably. So next Wednesday, the 26th, we're going to watch a trough dive down here, and it's going to initiate a low pressure system that runs through the midsection of the United States. And after that, well, I want to show you what I see changing here, okay? Because when I look exclusively into week 2, so this is only week 2, getting us out to March 3rd, we now see the ensemble models showing up with a drier pattern. Doesn't mean no precipitation, but it certainly is the opposite of what we have been seeing. Now, the subtropical branch of the jet stream is still running over the top of this, but something has snuck in underneath it that we need to be talking about. So this is what I want you to see. Through the end of this week, the features we're going to be watching is this deep trough that you see sitting right here. You see, after the big trough comes sweeping through at the end of this week, cooling things down a little bit, our next target is going to be what happens to this trough. So let me show you. This is Friday morning. This is now getting out to next Tuesday morning. That trough moved right down into here. Now that's going to initiate that low that I mentioned midweek next week that goes through the Midwest, and again brings the chances for precipitation across our southern region. But watch what happens to it as I step forward again, all the way out to the beginning of March 1st. What does the flow pattern do? It does something like this. Now, we talked about this in Monday morning's update, this high over low setup. The significance for folks in the southern region is that the flow is coming out of the northwest into this trough. Now, why talk about it that way? Well, if that setup does fully materialize by the time we start March, this will put, I'll draw a C over it, a region of upper level convergence. Now, all that means is the upper levels of the atmosphere. Well, the position of the jet stream is in the wrong configuration to bring broad upper level support for the development of precipitation. That's all that this means. And that's why you saw, as you looked out into week 2, exclusively into week 2, a drier pattern showing up. So when does it get here? It's going to take until the very end of the month and the start of March. The question is there any sort of longevity to this? And that's where I'm getting a bit confused, and I'm going to get to that next. Ready? What do temperatures do in response to this pattern? Well, these are actual high temperatures for today on Tuesday. So we can already see some of the influence of the colder air that's in parts of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. A lot of 40s in through here. Very warm, though, today through much of the rest of our southern region. As we play this one forward, let's see what happens to Wednesday's high temperatures. Now, remember the next stalled frontal boundary sitting right here. Remember that? So on the northern side of it, a lot of 40s and low 50s. This is the day we're looking at most carefully. Early in the morning, we could have temperatures right in through here that are below freezing, but we're going to warm up by midday to upper 30s, lower 40s, and that's why I think we've eliminated our chances of any sort of accumulating snow in this area on Thursday. Friday's high temperatures, this is when we have the most cold extended to the south. It's only the southern tip of Florida that stays warm. A lot of 40s and 50s across our southern region. But look, we get into Saturday and into Sunday, and things start to warm back up again to start next week. So again, it's just a temporary shot at some colder air. But what's happening after that? Well, days 5 through 10, which is what we're looking at next, this is when that trough is finally pushing into this area. And we know that as it pushes here into the Four Corner States and then eventually sets up over here, that it's going to do this to our temperatures as we look out to day 10 through 15. So we might actually get a shot at having some cooler air around that may last 3, 4, 5 days, which would be some of the longest duration cooler air that we've seen. We're going to have to watch carefully to see if this brings in some freezing temperatures, because we do know how warm things have been across this area throughout much of spring so far. And with things already starting to bloom and we're starting to see things budding, this could be of concern. I want to watch it very, very carefully. I will say this. The cooler air that is coming is not associated with disruption in the polar vortex. And that's critical, because if you think back March 15th, was that 2015? We had a big deep trough that swept in through here associated with the polar vortex split that brought in a nasty freeze event that killed a lot of things. This is not quite the same setup as that one was, okay? Just want to make sure that that's clear. Last thing I want to show you, though, is this. Looking at the entirety of the month of March, we are seeing that the deep snowpack we have out west might be influencing the overall pattern, keeping more troughing in the western part of the United States. If that does set up and Greenland stays on the colder side of things and the North Atlantic Oscillation stays positive, we could still go back into our same pattern that's doing something like this, therefore keeping us and our temperatures much closer to normal throughout the month of March. If that happens, though, the models are quite consistent with that bringing back the wetter pattern in this area. There are changes, though, and right now I'm just going to look at this and say we need to be questioning this, and I'm going to address some of those questions in the longer range outlook tomorrow on Wednesday. Okay? Hope you all have a great day on Tuesday, and keep a close eye on these systems sweeping through as we do expect more heavy rain. We'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.